And now, ladies and gentlemen, he's recorded voiceovers, mainly female, for the legendary cartoon show Beavis and Butthead. He's a two-time Month Story Slam winner. He is the literary death match champ. He has been published in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Daily Beast, Salon, Out, and Pause. He is the author of the critically acclaimed memoir about booze, sex, and his mother. He is dangerous when wet, and you can take that any way you like. Welcome to the stage, your host for tonight, Jamie Brickhouse.
Hello, my name is Jamie, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Jamie. I'm in the right room! Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I've always wanted to be a sellout, and we have actually finally sold out. That's great. And thanks for paying the cover price in which I conned you into buying a copy of my book. Y'all are sweet. Now, just by a round of applause, how many active alcoholics are here tonight? No judgments, no judgments. How many people are sober? And it's a dark room, so you're going to remain anonymous. Round of applause. I'm actually out. I've broken my sobriety. My anonymity. Now, how many people had dressing drinks before they came? Do you know what a dressing drink is? In my drinking days, listen, I never went out for a night on the town without at least having 2 dressing drinks, which is the drinks you have while you're dressing. Because, you want to go out there fortified. So anyone have dressing drinks? It's 6:30 show. I think you might be an alcoholic if you had a dressing drink. Because that means that you left the office at 5 o'clock on the dot as if you worked in accounting, went to the bar, and then came here. I know how this works. So tonight is, it's momentous. Thank you. So I was always a frustrated actor, performer. I did a little stand-up comedy, eons ago. In fact, I was going to say it's really an honor to be performing. I've been here many, many times, and it's the historic Duplex cabaret, and there's Joan Rivers there on the wall, and it's fantastic to be up here. And I thought, wow, this is it's so amazing to be on this stage for the very first time. And then I realized I've actually performed here one time before, but I was in a blackout. It was like 1992 or 3. I think I was funny. I don't recall. But anyways, I was saying I was kind of a frustrated performer, and then I became a very good drinker, and just didn't worry about performing unless I was at parties, but that usually involved removing my clothes. And then I got sober and became a writer, started writing some freelance stuff here and there, and then I finally wrote this book that we're all here to, that we're here to celebrate. Thank you very much. And ironically, it's led to me performing because I thought these are some really good stories. And so I in the last year or so, I started doing this whole storytelling thing, and I started it with The Moth, and I think there are a lot of people here who know about The Moth, and some of you may not. It's a great, it's kind of, I think storytelling's been going on for a long time before The Moth, but Moth kind of pushed it over the edge there. And when I started doing The Moth, I realized there was this I went down the storytelling rabbit hole, and I can't stop. But it's better than not being able to stop drinking. And so I've been performing stories adapted from the book. And when I thought about doing, something kind of special the book came out last year in hardcover, and now it's out in paperback. And I thought about doing something special for the launch of the paperback. And, you can't really do another bookstore signing. And I thought, what about hosting an evening of storytelling, all booze thing? Because let me tell you, drinkers have lots of good stories. And alcohol is a bottomless well of material, as some of you might know. And so I thought, well, you know what, I've gotten to know all these great storytellers whom you will see tonight. We have a stellar lineup. Some have been on This American Life. Lots of them are Moth winners, Gotham Comedy Club, blah, blah, blah. They're pretty amazing. And I don't know what their stories are. I just know that it involves booze and maybe drugs. I hope you can handle that. And maybe a little sex. But the whole, the wealth of material that comes from the drinking life is bottomless. But I'm kind of worried about, because I do want to write another book, but I feel like, I don't know if I have any more stories left, and I don't drink anymore, so I'm not really gathering that material. So a lot of times after someone does a booze recovery memoir, sometimes they follow it up with the relapse memoir. So tonight, I've decided that I am going to relapse live on stage, and you're all going to be part of the story. So I'll let you know when that happens. Now, are there any children here? Are there no children? Oh, that's too bad, because children drink for free. I would have loved that idea. Because I had no business being a child. I mean, the playground and its mewling habitués were no place for me. I wanted what I saw in movies and TV shows and at my parents' parties growing up in little old Beaumont, Texas. My idea of heaven was to be at a cocktail party and have a martini in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and my head thrown back in laughter. Everything outside of that was filler. I saw alcohol and parties as my fast ticket to adulthood. Now, my mother, Mama Jean, had other plans. With her raven mane of hair that was always done to a tease, makeup camera ready at all times, she was Beaumont's small-town answer to Elizabeth Taylor. And she had the split personality of Auntie Mame and Mama Rose. And when she was angry, her goddammit could shatter the cut glass vases in our house. So when she said it, there was a pregnant pause after God that left the object of her scorn bracing for the damn it. God damn it! But Mama Jean made a career out of loving me. I mean, she wanted to keep me as her precious Jamie doll forever. Oh, if only I could shrink you back to age 5. That was the perfect age. Now, she'd been saying this to me since I was 6. But Mama Jean, with her weekly hair appointments and the walk-in closet that was filled with ball gowns and caftans and furs, she kind of set me up to kind of go after larger-than-life personalities in women. And when I was the perfect age, 5, I remember seeing the singer, Miss Peggy Lee, on some variety show, and she was singing Is That All There Is? And I stood on the white shag carpeting of our living room, mesmerized. She stood on the TV screen, a glamorous ghost, with a platinum blonde Cleopatra wig and about 200 yards of diaphanous fabric, and blue sunglasses with round lenses about the size of my little head, and a black beauty mark right here, kind of like Miss Kitty had on Gunsmoke. And even though Is That All There Is a very adult song, it had me hooked from the first verse. I mean, it's a story song after all, so it spoke to my nascent homosexual 5-year-old brain. And, she sang about life's disappointments and tragedies to the gentle pa of a tuba vamp. And when her father takes her to the circus, which she calls greatest show on earth, and the way her voice goes up at the end in a question mark, you can almost hear her say, right? But what's her little girl assessment of the dancing bear and the clowns and the pretty lady in pink tights? I don't know. I felt like something was missing. I don't know what. And what's her little girl pragmatic answer to that problem? Is that all there is to a circus? If that's all there is, let's break out the booze and have a ball. Now that's my kind of little girl. So it was about that time that I decided I needed to get the hell out of Beaumont. And I wanted what was out there. And by high school, I had already embraced the drinking life, much to Mama Jean's chagrin. And when I finally left her for the glittering lights of New York City, and she reluctantly let me out of her clutches, I can still see the reflection, her reflection in the mirror, as she dispensed her motherly wisdom with a flick of a mascara wand. Remember, when it comes to drinks, alcoholics can't count. And a stiff dick knows no conscience. But that Peggy Lee moment, when I discovered Peggy Lee, that was still a seminal moment because it was also around that time that I had my first drink. And it's a memory I didn't recall until after I got sober. And it wasn't an entire drink. It was just a sip of a drink. It was my father's drink. And it's like the memory's like a Polaroid snapshot. The colors are all orange, brown, and green, framed in knotty wood pine paneling, with my copper red hair at the center. And his drink was amber liquid with floating through with rocks floating in there, which is what they called it when ice was cooling the brown stuff on the rocks. I like that phrase. And I don't remember if he gave it to me or if I asked him for it, or if I just grabbed the damn thing. But I took it, and I took that sip, and I let the liquid stay in my mouth longer than any other liquid had been in there before. And then I winced, and I swallowed. And it was like walking from outside, like in the hottest, stickiest Beaumont summer, into the Arctic blast of the central AC inside, bracing, mind-altering. But I don't remember a feeling of or, a warm feeling, but I remember the taste. It tasted like being an adult. All right, thank you. That's not it? So the way this night is going to work, I'm going to tell a little story. We got a couple other stories, and then another story for me, and blah, blah, blah. You know what? You're all here. You'll figure it out. So our first storyteller is also a comedian whom I've seen them all perform, and they're all amazing in their own special way. His name is Tarik Daniels, and he's performed at the Gotham Comedy Club, which is just down the block from me, come to think of it. And he will be featured on Queer Comedy Jam this fall. So please join me in welcoming Tarik.
Thank you so much. Give it up for Jamie, everybody. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is so awesome to see all you beautiful faces here. I'm so excited to be asked to do the show. When he invited me, I thought, well, I have 857 different drunk stories to tell. I love cocktails. I love drinking. I know where to find the booze and the boys. We know that, Mommy Dearest fans. We know that quote. I'm so juiced. So I was thinking, like, what am I going to talk about? There's so much I can talk about. I do want to give two brief little stories. When I first got introduced with alcohol, my grandmother introduced me. She was a really cool grandmother. Did anyone have a cool grandmother? I did. You did? Awesome. They're the best. My grandmother had a big red afro, and she had gay friends in the 60s before it was cool to have gay friends. And she loved me. I was her favorite grandchild. My other cousins would disagree with that, but they were wrong because they're jealous. So we had a good time. She loved a rum and Coke. So she'd have her grandkids make her rum and Coke for us, and she let us stir it with her finger, and then I'd get to sip it, and I was like, oh, I like the taste of that. This is okay. I still do drink. I support those that don't, but I still do drink myself. So yeah, we'd have fun. We'd have so much fun. So one time, my grandmother had me make her a drink, and I sipped it a little bit, and we were playing the Pointer Sisters, and I was like, Grandma, I'm gonna strip for you. And she was like, oh, you are? And I was like, yes, second guessing this thought. And she turned at the Pointer Sisters, she goes, go ahead, baby. And I stripped for her, and she called me her macho man. And I didn't get that she was making fun of me, that I wasn't really a macho man. But she was like, go. I stripped to my little underwoos, and I was stripping, and I had like the best time, and it was so much fun. So I've always loved boozing. So as an adult, you know, you realize drinking can get yourself into some trouble. There was a time that I drunkenly was hanging with some friends, and we ran into some other group of friends, and one of the guys with them was like decked out in Gucci, and he was like, hey, what's up? I'm a pimp. And I didn't believe him, because there's some stupid ass people who walk around saying they're a pimp when they're not a pimp. Well, I gave him my phone number. I was like, come to my party. It'll be great. It's my 23rd birthday. Come to my birthday party. I was like, I'll guarantee you'll get your dick sucked. Anyway, this man showed up to my birthday party 2 weeks later. He was not good looking at all. He came with 4 bodyguards, limping with a cane. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I came with my bodyguards because I just got shot. So this man proceeded to stay at my party and recruit my college friends as prostitutes. And I'm sorry, his name was Lucky. He was not lucky. He was not lucky at all. So we had to kick him out of the party. It was such a horrible thing. He ended up sending a prostitute a week later to my apartment to beat up my roommate who kicked him out. It was a mess, and it's all because of my whiskey drinking. But I was young, and you know, you make stupid mistakes when you drink. So the story that I actually do want to share with you involves a one-night stand, because that's what happens when you get really fucked up. Do sober people have one-night stands? Do they? Well, then you're just a slut. You're just a dirty ass whore. If you have a one-night stand with somebody and you weren't drunk. Well, you know, to each his own. No judgments, no judgments. So my one-night stand also happened early in my 20s. I'm in my late 30s now, but this is early in my 20s, and I lived in San Francisco. Have you guys been to San Francisco? Yeah, that's right. Give it up for San Francisco. So I was out. At the time, I was madly in love with my best friend. Has anyone ever been there? Isn't it awful? It's so sad, because, you know, I knew I didn't melt his butter. I knew he didn't want me. And I like to be with men that want me, you know? Everybody wants to be desired, but he didn't want me. In my sad young days, I was still in love with him, and we were roommates. I even agreed to live with him. I like the torture, I guess. So we're roommates, and we're out. It's a Sunday night. We're out at a club. We're getting wasted, and all my coworkers are there. And see, he's really good looking, so every guy wants him. So I had this sick thing where I would hook him up with people. Oh, no. Yeah, I would like live vicariously through them. They're like, oh, you like him, you want him, okay, fine, you can have him, but you have to tell me all about it. I want every detail, I want taste, I want smell, I want to know all about it tomorrow. And so this night we go out, and my coworker, you know, they're hanging out, and I get drunk, I keep drinking, and then I start getting jealous. I'm getting so enraged with jealousy. So then we decide to have the after party at our place. So we're in the streets of San Francisco. It's like 2 a.m., wasted out of my mind, and they're walking ahead of me, and I see this guy comes out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, you're cute, let's make out. And I was like, okay, fuck them. And I start making out with this random stranger. I do not remember his name at all. So my friends are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're making out with a stranger? I'm like, forget you guys, you don't care about me. no way. I run off with this guy. We go to the ATM, we get some cash out, we get a cab, and we go to his place. Now, we were in the Castro. That's all I remember. So we go to his place, and he keeps saying, you want some G? Do you want some G? Do you want to do some G? I have some in my freezer. At the time, I had only tried a little cocaine and weed. So I was like, I didn't know what the fuck G was. And honestly, I still don't know what G is. If anyone... I was gonna Google it before the show, and I was like, oh, it makes it a little interesting that I have no idea what it was. I still have no idea. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we go back to his place, and he's like, let's play the Dixie Chicks. And I was like, okay. At the time, I really was not a Dixie Chicks fan. This is before they turned on Bush, and then I fell in love with them. Now I'm down with the Dixie Chicks. But this time I wasn't into the Dixie Chicks at all, but I didn't care. He had this fabulous apartment. And, you know, I was with him, and he cared, and he was a good kisser, and we made out, and we played the Dixie Chicks. And then, you know, we had drinks, but he's like, do you want the G? It's in the freezer. And I was like, no. I've never tried a drug in someone's freezer. Why are you freezing this G? It was so weird. So, oh my God, so we make out, and then we get naked in his bed, and I'm like, could you turn off the Dixie Chicks? It's not. I'd rather hear Stevie Nicks' version of Landslide if we're gonna be doing it. So he turns it off, we make out, and he's impotent and he has a micro penis. I am not a size queen, but I need something. You know, a micro penis, you're like, it's easy to deep throat, but you could take it all in. But it was sad, but you know, it was okay. We're laying in his bed, we're naked, and we fall asleep and we hold each other, and it was so romantic. So I wake up the next morning, Monday morning, and birds are chirping, the sun is coming up. And I get up, he's sleeping, I walk around, and I can't find my underwear. So I'm walking around naked. It took me like 40 minutes to find his underwear. I'm all through his apartment looking, and finally find it. And see, I'm new at one-night stands, and I don't really get how they work. So I decided to wake him up to say I'm leaving and write down my phone number. And I'm like, sweetie, baby, I'm so sorry, I gotta go. And he's like, no, baby, come back. No, don't go, hold me. And I'm like, oh, you're so sweet. I was like, no, I gotta go. I was like, damn it, you know, it took me 45 minutes to find my underwear. He like woke right up. He was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, I was walking around your apartment for 45 minutes looking for underwear. And he's like, you were alone in my apartment looking for your underwear? What? Fuck that. You're not going anywhere. He jumped out of bed and turned into the devil. And I'm like, wait, hold up. Wait, what happened? Now, meanwhile, this guy he's from Munchkin Land. He's short as can be. He grabs my arms and he like holds me down. He's like, you're not fucking leaving. You were alone in my apartment. I don't trust people. He starts running around his apartment, searching for everything and making sure he has all his things. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? And he's like, no, fuck that, you're not going anywhere. Now I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, I could totally take him right now. But a black man knocking out a white guy in his apartment and then leaving, prison is not my idea of what I wanted for my future. So I was just like, I can't believe you're acting like this. I didn't steal anything. Then he goes to his computer, he starts typing on the computer, and I'm like, dude, I'm not a fucking computer hacker. Then he's like, I have to search you. And I was like, fine. And then I had on these new jeans that fit me perfectly. And I was 23, and I was like, search me. Search me. He starts searching me, I have nothing. And I'm like, And then he's looking at me, and he's realizing that I'm out of his league, and he was lucky to have me at all with his micro fucking penis. And he's like, he realizes this, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I just had some really bad experiences. And I'm so pissed right now. And I'm like, well, you know what? Let me give you some advice. Maybe you shouldn't bring strangers home at 2 a.m. to your house that you don't know. So, I have to walk out of his apartment. It's Monday morning at 8 a.m. Walk of shame. You guys know about the walk of shame? So, the worst walk of shame, side note, is after Halloween. When it's the double walk of shame. I saw Little Red Riding Hood one morning after Halloween, and if she was going home to Grandma would be like, you look like a fucking whore right now. So I walk out, people are on their way to work, this man was putting out his trash, I was like, sir, I need to get back to the Castro, and he just ran back into his house. This woman, I go up to her, I'm like, I just need, and I don't remember where I was. I just need to get back to Castro because that's where I live. And I said, I go to this woman and she just starts laughing at me. And I was like, I have no money. I don't know where I am. And she's like, there's a bus right there. So I get on the bus, and everyone on the bus, everyone is dressed, ready to go to work, professional homosexuals, lesbians with their wives, husbands with their husbands. Beautiful. It was actually really beautiful and charming, but they were not feeling me with my little club outfit on, stumbling through, hung over. It was so sad. They laughed at me. And it was the worst walk of shame that I've ever had before. And that's what I wanted to share with all of you. If you're gonna be a slut, be smart about it. You guys, that is my time. You are a wonderful audience. Thank you so much, Jamie, for having me. Thank you so much.
Woohoo! All right, yes, keep it going for Tarik. So a few things I took away from that story. If you're gonna be a slut, be smart about it. Be smart about it. I just have to remember that. And if you're sober, don't have one-night stands. I have to remember that too. Just a round of applause. Again, it's a dark room, anonymous. How many of you have micro penises? Because I just want to make sure I don't want to go home with you because I'm a slut and I want to be smart about it. So, all right. Next up is Sandi Marx, and I love Sandi. I kind of think of her as like that girl of storytelling, you know, as in Marlo Thomas, but she's like a blonde Marlo Thomas, you know, she's funny and sweet and perky, and she also appears on like every storytelling stage. She's that girl. So let's see, she's a 7-time Moth Story Slam winner and will be competing in her next Moth Grand Slam on June 15th. So go to the Moth's website if you want to get tickets to go see her and cheer her on. She's doing a storytelling show Out by 10 next Friday, June 10th, and she will be featured in a live podcast called The Whole Story for their premiere party on June 16th. Her biggest and scariest event is her upcoming solo show produced by Susan Kent and The Tank for the Dead Parents Club Festival. I'm a member of that club. It's not fun. So give it up for Sandi Marx.
Hi, everybody. I love Marlo Thomas. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said. Okay, so here's my story. So I'm sitting in a restaurant and I'm facing my dad. And it's his last night in New York. I'm getting back to the airport in the morning because he lives in Fort Lauderdale. And I have nothing but white hot rage for this man. It's not necessary, but I have it. Now, sitting to my left is my husband, Keith. And across from him is his mom, Rita. Now, anyone else in this restaurant would be oblivious to the fact. They would think like, oh, like a nice family, it's Sunday night, they're all out for a nice dinner, they're so adorable. Well, there was rage and hatred at this table. Now, Keith is he's total empath. He's like one of those telepathic guys, precog, who knows to hold my left hand. He's holding it really tight. And the reason he's holding it's not because he likes me, which he does, but no, he's holding it because he's afraid I might lunge for the fork or the knife, and I might start poking at my father, who's really close enough that I could actually get him. Now, the reason the dude's in town is because he's here for my mother's unveiling. Now, if you're not a Jew, I'll explain. If you're a Jew and you die, we stick you in the ground, but then, if that's not enough, if that's not awful, you have to wait a whole fucking year and then traipse back to the same place, like Groundhog Day, to some muddy cemetery where they literally unveil the stone, and you have to rent a rabbi. It's ridiculous. And he whips off this thing. You expect him in Yiddish to say, ta-da, and there's the tombstone. It's awful. This is not something I want, but that's what my parents did. So that's why he's in town. And I am angry at my dad because I've always had issues with him, but I really am thinking that he was responsible for her dying, which is ridiculous, but they're my feelings, so I own them. Okay, so I decided to take him to his favorite restaurant on his last night, Sammy's Romanian. Now, it's on Christie Street. I don't know if any of you guys have been there. It's amazing. It's been around like since the Nixon administration, and it's like a national landmark. And you have to book like months in advance. And even when you do that, when you get there, they make you wait in this narrow hallway. And the only thing to amuse you is the fact that they have these walls covered in business cards. And I think it's like a Where's Waldo? And they figure, oh, we'll entertain them while they're waiting. They'll see Mayor Beam and Morgan Fairchild, and like every old dude is up on that wall. And then you get seated by these angry waiters in their rumpled, sweaty white shirts and like throw the menus at you. And the first thing you notice on the table is there's a vat of schmaltz, which is chicken fat, and a challah. It's really very appetizing. And then there's seltzer bottles, like old school seltzer bottles, which is really cool. And then the waiter comes over and he looks pissed off. He's like 90. But then he does something that changes the course of the night. He plunks on our table this huge block of ice, and in the middle is a bottle of Stolichnaya. Now, he then tells us that they invented bottle service. And I believe him. They probably did invent bottle service, because who else back then was serving Romanians a bottle of vodka in the middle of the table? So thank God for the vodka. And right away, I'm all in. I'm pouring that first icy glass. I don't even drink vodka, but I'm so angry at my dad, I think this will calm me down. So I pour the first glass, which, by the way, was in a recycled, like jelly jar or something. Or if it wasn't in that, it might have even been like, you know, yurtside candles that we Jews have? I swear, I think they washed out a yurtside candle. That was the glass. I didn't care. I was drinking. I didn't care. Okay, now, in addition to that, after the waiter dares you to order the flank steak with extra garlic, God forbid, if you say sauce on the side, you're out. You're like, it's like the soup Nazi. You gotta leave. But the pièce de résistance is the entertainment. There's a Casio keyboard, man, by this old dude with like a crooked tooth, and he's probably played like at Grossinger's or, I don't know, Concord, and he's belting out all the favorites, like the songbook from Fiddler on the Roof, and Tony Orlando and Dawn, and Barbra Streisand. But his big number is from the Billy Joel playbook. He's mixed it up, and he's got a whole new way to sing it. Sing us a song, I'm the schmata man, and the whole crowd is going nuts. He was splendid. He was really, I was getting drunk, and I'm not really a drinker. I weigh like 98 pounds. For me to have more than one glass of vodka, it's insanity. But I'm still so angry at my father. Now, let me explain the anger. Okay, so my mother, when she was in her mid-60s, she became a type 2 diabetic. Now, that's because her intake of sugar. Now, this was something that she brought upon herself because she had her own addictions. It wasn't booze, it wasn't those pep pills her friends were taking because they read Valley of the Dolls. None of that. It was sugar. And her gateway drug was cling peaches in heavy syrup. So good. I don't blame her. They're good. But it wasn't good. She was sick. And then she spiraled down till she finally got to those hot and crusty McDonald's apple pies. You know, they come in the sleeve. And my mother was so addicted to sugar that she always had like stuff falling off on the roof of her mouth because she never waited for it to cool down. And in her car, there'd be like littered like those cardboard. It was not good. And my father was her classic enabler because he loved her so much. And my mother never got along with him as much as he loved her. And from the time I was like 6 years old, she used to sit my sister and I down like adults and tell us, I'm leaving your father. I'm leaving your father. I spent my entire life, now I get it. I mean, he had very little education. He had no skills. He couldn't hold a job. He even was fired as a cab driver because he lost his driver's license. So my mother had a lot of disappointment and rage at this man. But one thing he could provide for her was sugar. And so that was the glue that held that marriage together. She was insulin dependent, and he would give her something and she'd just shoot on up. And no matter how much I begged her to change her ways, she was only 72 years old when she died. She liked the sugar, and that was it. So, fine, okay. So, finally, I got that 2 a.m. call none of us want to get. It was my father saying my mother had a massive stroke, and she was in a coma. I got down there like a day later, and she was already gone. And I swear to God, if they did forensics, and if they went into that fucking apartment, they would have found like a cheesecake crummy fork in that sink next to a hypodermic needle, because I blame this man. He was like in one of those drug movies. It was his fucking fault. And now I'm sitting here, we're drinking vodka together, I'm eating like Flintstone meat. It's like hanging. And we're smearing, like the drunker I got, the more smearage of the... It's not good. All right, finally, we get through the meal. Keith could let go of my hand. I'm obviously the flatware save. And I'm like rage, but now I'm a drunk rager, so I'm calm. And I'm not a good drunk because I've never really had that much vodka. So we pay the check, we leave the restaurant, and I'm holding up the wall outside, weaving. Meanwhile, Rita, Keith's mom, oblivious, my father in his own world. So I'm just sort of teetering. Keith brings the car around. My father sits shotgun. I sit in the back with Rita because she lives in Brooklyn. We're going to drop her first. So we get to Brooklyn, and I'm like I'm out practically. I am like Janis Joplin crazy. So I'm like worrying I'm going to choke on my own something. So we get there. Keith gets his mom into her building in Brooklyn Heights. And I'm sitting there with my dad, but I'm so sick. So I open the back car door, and I have an exorcism in the middle of Brooklyn where schmaltz and challah and brisket and vodka and rage, and it all I just leave it on the sidewalk. I just leave it there. And I like try to, and I smell sour. I smell like old milk or like a sour cream. And I shut the door, and my father doesn't say a fucking word. No acknowledgement. Like, now either he pretended to not notice that his daughter was retching out the car door, or he really had no idea. Now Keith, he comes out, he's on the other side of the car. He doesn't see the detritus that's lying on that Brooklyn Heights street. So we drive back to Westchester, and nobody says a word, which isn't unusual, because I tell you, we never talk with my dad in the car because he's nothing to say. Maybe they listen to the sports. I don't know. We get back home. Now I instruct Keith, get my father downstairs to his guest room and make sure you pack him up, because the flight's in the morning. We're not missing this goddamn flight. No way. He's not safe yet. He's not safe. So my father goes downstairs. Keith, my adorable husband, gets him ready, makes sure the bag is like by the door. And then it's 20 minutes. Keith can't find me. And he looks everywhere, in our bedroom, in the kitchen, in the living room. He's thinking that I am so much on a bender that I've wandered onto the post road in the middle of Westchester, like in a bathrobe, maybe holding like a cup of gin or something. And he's bad, he doesn't know where I am. And then he finds me. I'm in my closet. I have become completely blacked out, and I'm in the fetal position, and I'm hugging one brown suede boot. I'm just lying there. That's it. And he like ungrips me from the boot, and he washes me up, sponges me down. They're like crumbs and shit hanging everywhere, like little garlic specks. And he puts me to bed. He sets the alarm. We can't miss the flight. Oh no, we're not missing this flight. And the next morning I wake up, and I'm so sick, like hangover-y sick, and I'm still drunk. It hasn't left my system yet. But it doesn't matter. I'm getting that man to the airport because I really am still on it. I can't let go of my anger, but I won't discuss it with this man. We have nothing. The only thing we've ever said to each other is when I was a kid, my father used to say, put more elbow grease into it. Like, and I didn't know what that meant. He wanted me to work harder. Like, my elbows are supposed to be greasy. Or he would brag that my mother, Greta, when she was young, was built like a brick shithouse. Now, when you're like 9, I thought my mother was made out of shit, like a big brick of shit. I thought, is that supposed to be a good thing? Do I want to be a brick shit house? I didn't know what that meant. Okay, so we drive into the airport, and but I know the route. I've done it a million times. I have my Waze, and I'm driving into the airport. And then something really bizarre happens. We get there, and it's JetBlue, and you know how they're like really aggressive, and all those terminals and those guys with the whistles, those TA guys, are like, move along, move along. And I'm such a codependent that I always want the TA guys to like me. So when I usually go to the airport to drop somebody off, I like slow down and tell them to jump out. I'm so nervous I might get into trouble. But this time, I did the unthinkable. I stopped. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe it was all that booze, or maybe it was losing all the booze. But I got out of the car, and even though they were yelling at me to move your car, you're going to get a ticket, or I'm going to tow you. And I walked my dad up to the terminal doors, and then just as he was going to leave, I grabbed him. And I hugged him really tight. And I could feel him tensing up, like he might have thought I was going to go for his throat. I don't know. Like, it was just a minute. But then I wouldn't let go. And I felt him just relax. Just for a second, he relaxed. Like he got it. He knew what I was trying to do. And then I let him go. I didn't say anything. I just let him go. And I got back in the car, and I knew then I could let go. He could let go. We're all we have. He's my only dad. I didn't pick him, but he's my dad. And we're just doing the best we can. And I am so grateful for that bottle of iced vodka, because having that exorcism that night before on Livingston Street saved me. And more than that, it saved my father. Thank you.
All right, keep it going for Sandi Marx. Woohoo! That was fantastic. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to relapse here on the stage. I'm going to go to Sandi's Romanian. And I love how when you want to indicate that something or someone or something has been around for a really long time, it's always since the Nixon administration. I wonder if it'll ever be the Clinton administration, but I guess you have to pick someone that was unliked. So once I moved to New York, my Peggy Lee repertoire expanded. Almost as much as my drinking. And by the time I was 28, I was an everyday drinker and almost a nightly listener to Peggy Lee. I mean, the way her soft purr of a voice was so nuanced and sensual, was almost like she was your lover, sitting next to you in bed, singing into your ear. And her phrasing was so nuanced and subtle that the meanings of the songs, as perceived by her, were like they came in flashes, like the way lightning can illuminate a room just long enough for you to find what you need to find. And remember, how she felt about the circus. Greatest show on earth. So one dark 4 a.m. night, I'm in my apartment with my best friend since college, Mr. Parker, and we're hammered after a night on the town, 4 a.m., and we're listening to Peggy Lee sing Is That All There Is? Over and over and over. Play it again, play it again! I screamed, pointing the remote control at the CD player. It was the 90s. And then Peggy Lee's voice, for the umpteenth time, filled the room with that haunting song. And Mr. Parker said, "My God, this song is fantastic. She's fantastic. Jamie, are you a Peggy person?" "Yes, I'm a Peggy person, have been since I was 5. Well, a lot of people think this is the ultimate downer song. I don't. Conversely, I think it's a celebration of life and all its joy and tragedy. Amen. And what will she be doing when that final disappointment comes? Is she ready for that? Oh no, not her. And when that final disappointment comes, what will she be saying? I'll break out the booze and have a ball. We said it in unison. And then we were quiet for a while and we just listened and marinated in the song's meaning. And then Mr. Parker turned to me with just a sparkle in his glassy eyes. You know, I have her phone number. What do you mean you have her phone number? I mean to say I have her phone number in my back pocket. You know, my friend knows that I'm a major Peggy person, and he worked at one of the many hospitals. You know how she was always in and out of the hospital. Oh yeah, I know. I read her autobiography. She described more fatal illnesses and near-death experiences than Elizabeth Taylor. Well, anyway, he worked at one of the hospitals, and he got her number for me. And then he pulled out the piece of paper with her number in his wallet, and he waved it at me. And with liquor courage, I just grabbed it. Give me that! Picked up the phone and dialed. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? A young-sounding voice answered. Hi. May I speak to Peggy? Yeah. Who's calling? Jamie. Okay, hold on. Hold. I'm on hold for Miss Peggy Lee. And then, yes? This is Peggy. Hi, Peggy, it's Jamie. Jamie Anderson? No, Jamie Brickhouse. I'm a huge fan of yours. I met you backstage at one of your concerts in New York. It was a lie. I never was fortunate enough to see her live. Oh, well, what are you doing? The way she said it, she could have been saying, what are you wearing? I said, well, I'm just sitting here with my best friend, Mr. Parker, and, oh, you know, I missed your concert at Carnegie Hall last year, and I'm still sick about it. Do you have any New York dates coming up? Well, since the fall, I can't even get out of bed. And then her voice sunk down in what I imagined to be a cumulus cloud of a king-size bed, and she was in a white satin bed jacket with a princess phone cradled between her ear and shoulder. And then there was a sparkle in her voice as she said, but I've still got the voice. Yes, Peggy, you still got the voice. Am I catching you at a bad time? No. What are you doing? Well, I'm sitting here with my best friend, Mr. Parker, and we're drunk, and we're listening to Is That All There Is? Peggy, I can't tell you how many drunken nights you've gotten me through with that song. Well, I guess my life was worth living. I don't know what she said after that. And it doesn't matter. And I thought, I guess my life was worth living. What did she mean by that? Was it a sarcastic slap in my face that, okay. I was going for something deep, but I think you're right. That if she got another drunk on the line through another drunken night, then maybe her life had purpose? Or was she actually acknowledging the fact that the song meant so much to me, and if it meant so much to me, then she's probably touched so many other people in a profound way. And I kind of think it's a little bit of both. And I thought about the life I'd been living in New York in the 6 years that I'd been in New York at that time, and it was a life I dreamed about on that white shag carpeting rug back in Beaumont. I mean, I was in New York, had a career working with writers, I had a man who loved me, I had a charming brownstone apartment, and we had been breaking out the booze and having lots of balls. I mean, someone should have hung a sign over our door that said, a la McDonald's, millions overserved. And so much went into those parties. You know, I'd coming up with the clever theme and the right guest list and the right music playlist. And then the people showed up and we broke out the booze and we had a ball. And then it was over. And my partner would go to bed, but I would always stay up for just one more. Well, really several. And I would sit there in the dark, drinking my bourbon on the rocks and listening to Peggy sing, "Is That All There Is?" And I think about the life that I was living up to that point and wondering, is that all there is? And again, I thought about all those parties, and there was so much fun, and then it was over. And I still wanted more. And I felt like Peggy at the circus. I had the feeling that something was missing. And I didn't know what. Thank you. All right, we will head on to our fourth storyteller, Bobby Hankinson. I always want to call him Little Bobby Hankinson because that name, it sounds like someone from Leave It to Beaver, like, you know, the cute boy down the street who, you know, he's adorable and everyone thinks he's funny. And guess what? He is adorable. And I think most people do think he's funny. So he makes me laugh. He's a nationally touring member of the Awkward Sex and the City storytelling group, a columnist for the leading LGBTQIABCDEFG website, tollroad.com, and he hosts the monthly storytelling show Queendom, that's spelled Kweendom, adorable, which is having a special Brooklyn Pride show at Unicorn Hall, Unicorn Hall on June 10th. So please help me welcome Little Bobby Hankinson.
Wow, look at all of you beautiful people. Amazing, amazing. So, you know the worst part about being a blackout drunk in 2016? Technology makes it so much easier to get into trouble. Take Seamless, for example. Seems harmless enough, right? But I was out one night and I was drinking too much, and I got home and I passed out, and I woke up the next day late and I checked my phone and I had this barrage of furious text messages from like 5 a.m. from this poor delivery guy who was trying in vain to wake me up because he just wanted to give me the food that I forgot that I ordered. And I had to look up, I'm like, what even did I want at 5 a.m? I ordered a hot dog on a bagel. Why was that an option? Why was that even an option? Let me tell you, Seamless and apps like Seamless, they are ruining lives, they are ruining relationships. I mean, how is anyone supposed to stay remotely fuckable when you can order disco fries at 3 a.m. without talking to a human person? And sex as a whole has gotten a lot like Seamless. You just pull out your phone, you fire up an app, and you get that dick on delivery. And so, for me, having that access and all of this alcohol is a really bad combination. I was having one of those nights where I was just having copious amounts of drinking, just reckless, irresponsible, office holiday party levels of drinking. And I'm getting bored, I'm getting restless, and I pull out my phone like we all do, and I fire up one of those like sexy, Seamless-esque apps. And I'm not sure if it was Grindr or Growler or Jacked or Scruff or Daddy Hunt. Take your pick, doesn't matter. Actually, if I'm gonna make a bet, I would say that it was some combination of all of them. And I was in the back of a taxi cab just frantically reloading like some kind of mobile fuck command center. Just like pulling in reports from all over the place. And so I get a message and all it says is come over and an address. That's it. That's the opener, okay? And now typically in my sober mind, what I would do is I try to like maintain the illusion that I'm vetting these people. You know, I want to go through my life convinced that I'm not about to get Law & Order SVU'd at any given moment. So typically I do this really cool trick where I'm like, hey, you know, it'd be so hot. Why don't you take your phone to the bathroom and, I don't know, take a few pictures of yourself holding today's newspaper from various angles, just so I can make sure you're on the level. At the very least, I want to strike up enough of a conversation to be the basis of like a reading comprehension exam. So at least then I can be like, he's using a semicolon, how bad can he be? But not on this night, my friends, not on this night. On this night, I was just like, on my way. So I give the cab driver this address. I get in the car and we're going, and I arrive, And I stumble out of the cab, and I stumble up to the door, and I text him. I'm like, I'm downstairs. And I wait. I keep waiting. I notice a guy comes out of the building next door. I'm not paying much attention to him at first, but I can feel he's paying a lot of attention to me. He's got like one eye like really focused on me, like that velociraptor from Jurassic Park. Like, you can tell there's like more going on behind that eye than you think. And so it dawns on me what's happening is that this guy gave me a decoy address in case I was a dud, which, clever girl, but also, obviously not the case. So, he comes over and introduces himself. He takes me up to his apartment. He takes me to the boudoir. And I'm using that word very purposefully in this instance, mostly on account of all of the satin and silk, drapes and curtains and sheets in various shades of pinks and purples. Like, even in my drunk mind, I'm like, ooh, that's tacky. And the guy himself, he's like a little on the shorter side, a little on the rounder side, a little on the older side. He's got like an amateur wizard vibe about him. Just like, you know, like pointy eyebrows, trim goatee, graying at the temple. You know what I mean? Sort of like Doctor Strange as portrayed by Guy Fieri. Yeah. Or like maybe think of like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones and Jack Black had a terrible nightmare baby. A little bit like that. So that's him. So he goes to put on a porno. And he doesn't just open up a laptop and fire up free pornography like a goddamn American. No, instead, he reaches on a shelf and pulls out a DVD case. He takes out a disc, and then he puts it in a DVD player attached to a television, attached to a wall. What the fuck are you doing? Like, he might as well have been playing in an old-timey kinetoscope booth, or like a Zoetrope, you know what I mean? I half wanted to stop and be like, should we crank that before we get started? Anyway, porno's going. I'm in this bed, I'm in these satin sheets, I'm feeling very sexy, I'm like Pink in the Moulin Rouge video. And then clothes start coming off, my friends. And I am faced with not only the smallest penis I've ever seen, oh no, the smallest penis I could fathom. Like that I could imagine in my mind. And I bet when you arrived tonight, you did not think you were gonna hear 2 micropenis stories. But tonight is your lucky night, everybody, because this is Micropenis 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is Micropenis 2, The Shortening. Later on, at the end of the show tonight, Tarik and I are gonna team up and tell a story about how we're the Little Dick Avengers. Like, that's how it's gonna work. It's fine. So we're gonna roll with me. And you guys might be worried, because apparently there's a pox of little dicks on this world. And you're like, oh my god, did I have sex with a guy with a micropenis and never realized it? Let me put your minds at ease. You didn't. Because realizing you're sleeping with a guy that has a micropenis is a lot like falling in love. When it happens, you know. You know for sure in your heart what just happened. Okay? And so I'm totally ill-prepared to deal with this whole situation that's befalling me in this evening. And so just like time and space and common sense, nothing applies. Because I had always figured if I ever found myself hooking up with a guy with a micropenis, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, you know? It'd be like fun size, or playing with a woman's golf club, just like easier to handle, you know? But what you don't consider really, what doesn't cross your mind immediately, is that there's no way to handle a micropenis that doesn't feel condescending. like, your only options are like, you start to feel emasculated on their behalf. Whatever, I'm doing my damnedest. And I had also assumed that guys with micropenises are probably super generous lovers. As if to say, like, sorry about all this, let's focus on you. Not the case. Instead, I just got like a lot of like, suck my cock kind of talk, which typically I'm very into. But in this particular situation, it basically just like, I don't know, made me confront a lot of like logistical concerns and do like drunken math about how I'm gonna navigate the discrepancies in length between his penis and the depth of my lips. It was kind of like, I don't know, like trying to read Braille with your mouth. You know what I mean? Just like a little bump that you're just rubbing your mouth on. But, yeah. But I'm persevering, I'm pushing through, I'm making the most of it. Doing what I can. The porno ends, and it goes back to the home screen because it's a fucking DVD. And I guess I was using it as like some kind of drunken sundial to like gauge time. 'Cause that's about when I was like, whoa, we should wrap this up, huh? So we're like, let's just jerk ourselves off and go home. I'm like, great plan. So he's over here flicking his bean or whatever. And I'm trying really hard not to imagine a baby masturbating next to me. Sorry, you guys. The sequel's always worse. No, and then we finish. And he goes to get a towel like a gentleman. And in the 10 seconds he's out of the room, I'm like fully dressed, shoes on, ready to go, okay? He struck me a little bit like a cuddler, and I was not drunk enough for that. So I get downstairs, and I hop in a cab, and I'm going home, and I start to realize I'm not much different than the delivery man on my doorstep trying to give someone a hot dog. Because in the sexual seamless economy, someone's got to be the delivery guy, and everybody's got to eat. Thank you, guys.
Right, little Bobby Hankinson. Wow. Shift in tone tonight. From now on, the stories are not going to be booze themed, but they're going to be micro penis themed. Or macro vagina. Take your pick. I fell in one once. Ooh! Quicksand. That was great, Bobby. I really liked that story. And wait, there was something. Wait, what did you say? Oh, Dick on Delivery. I think that should be the name of a new pickup app. I like DOD. So, we're going to move right along to one of my favorite people that I have gotten to know in this whole crazy storytelling world. She is beautiful, she's smart, she's funny. She's also been on Girls. They did a Moth. I think the last episode of Girls was Moth, and Elizabeth is on there. And she is quite simply a writer, a performer, and a vampire slayer. And if you live in New Jersey, speak to her after the show. Please help me welcome Elizabeth Trundle.
Hello. Hi. Jamie, thank you. I'm really grateful you put me in the show. And congratulations on the paperback release of your book. It's a really good book. Don't start reading it tonight or you'll be up all night. I like the theme of drinking for stories. I have a lot of good and bad drinking stories. But I kind of wanted to take it in a different direction. I'm going to start with a question. Has anyone here ever been in a relationship that was a relationship with someone, maybe a friend or a lover or a member of your family, and you were convinced they were drinking your blood? Maybe while you were sleeping? Maybe while you were awake? Well, I have. This is a horror story. It starts on a train. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell the whole story like that. I could. So I'm on a train, and I'm on the way to my friend's wedding, my friend Bridget, and I'm 23, and it's the first friend of mine that's gotten married. And I'm alone on the train, and I'm drinking a 40-ouncer with a paper bag around it. I'm hitting it pretty hard, because I'm nursing a grudge against my friend Bridget, surprisingly, because I'm not in a bridal party. It's not like I'm Betty Bridesmaid, especially not back then, but I was hurt. You know, I considered Bridget a close friend, and also the maid of honor, Marla. I was also close to Marla. But I have to be honest, Marla, less of a friend, I was more of a soul slave than a friend. And what is the difference between a soul slave and a friend? You might be asking yourself, and it's a good question. Well, I was 23, we lived in New York City, and Marla and I spent way too much time together. And when we were together, she would take a little chunk of my soul. It was ineffable, it was abstract. I was way too young to be conscious of much, so I didn't really know what it was, but I knew she was taking a little chunk of something. And with it always came a little piece of my dignity. But I was a willing victim. I put my neck out and she sunk her teeth in. In exchange, I got to live in her apartment rent-free and drive her car. She was an heiress, and so she had a fortune, and she would buy me food at restaurants, and I was an alcoholic, so she would buy me drinks, and that could get pretty expensive. And yeah, so also I got to walk around with her parrot on my shoulder, which gave me a certain, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. And I would sleep in her bed with her when her boyfriend was out of town. But it wasn't a sexual relationship. It was actually more intimate than that. Anyway, she was the maid of honor. And I'm riding the train. I'm feeling kind of bitter about it. And here's the deal. It sounds like I just went up to college and looked for rich friends, which is not true. Well, I don't think it's true. But I did come out of college with a lot of rich friends, and I think it's because of my mom. I would like to blame her, if you would allow me that privilege. Because I grew up in the South. I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and my mom was it was the 1970s, and she was heavily into the Gothic Southern myth of the wealth that once was. We're going back a few years to the Civil War, people. A lot of people jumped on the "we were rich before the war" wagon, and we were some of those people. So in the 70s, we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of attitude. And wealth was really the state of mind. So I don't know, I might have picked that up from her. The only state of mind I was really conscious of at the point that I got off the train was that I was drunk, because I'd had 2 of these tall malt liquors, very classy. I was wearing a cheap dress from TJ Maxx. I had my Payless heels on. I was on my own, you know. Marla was already at the wedding. So I had to pay for my own taxi. Went to the church. It was beautiful. Marla looked beautiful. Maid of honor. The bride looked beautiful, Bridget. I hated her. And then we took, I was ferried over, you know, in a van to the estate where the wedding was, along with all the other non-members of the bridal party. And we got to the estate, and it's really nice. It's like a house with a big white tent next to it, fields. It's out in rural New Jersey, and there's horses grazing in the pasture. So immediately when I see the horses, I start sweating, because I have a very bad memory of these horses, which I'm going to tell you about now. As you might have guessed. Okay, but that was a nice little horses. Here we go, horse story. So after my freshman year of college, I went home with Bridget for a few days, and I was, Marla was there. And in college, I was not friends with Marla. In fact, Marla and I competed with each other for Bridget's attention. But Marla was Bridget's best friend from prep school. They went to St. Whatchamacallit. And I kind of had to put, I mean, if you're a woman, you know this. Sometimes you got to put up with the friend of the friend. So the friend of the friend was Marla, and she didn't like me either. And Bridget says, "So, do you ride horses?" Of course I ride horses, which was a lie. Maybe I'd been on a pony ride. Maybe I'd taken a trail ride at Bible camp in West Virginia. But I certainly didn't ride thoroughbred horses, English style, on these little tiny saddles. But I jumped up, and Marla and Bridget and I went for a horse ride. Didn't end well. Of course, at first it was fun. We were walking. I thought I could handle it. There was a little this going on. I don't know, it's called posting. Yeah, right? I was going to say the vagabond vagina, but that's not what you said. What did you say? Something about a giant vagina. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. So I'm posting on the horse, and I think I'm pulling it off. Then Marla cuts me a look from her side, her tawny eye, and takes off cantering. Then Bridget takes off cantering. So, of course, my horse takes off cantering. I have no idea how to stop it. If you can fall in 3 directions at once, I did. Sideways, sideways, backwards, onto the ground. I survived, obviously. Barely. But I got up and I brushed myself off and I kept on living. That is something I know how to do. I know how to stay alive. Barely. Because the truth is that after college, I knew I couldn't trust Marla after that. But we both moved to New York City, and she was pursuing art. Bridget moved to Wyoming, and she was pursuing rock climbing and horses. And I was pursuing drugs and alcohol, pretty much. So I was lost. I was drunk a lot, high a lot. I couldn't keep an apartment, couldn't keep a job. And I got into a situation commonly referred to as homelessness. And that's when Marla scooped me up. She got her teeth in my neck. So, I don't know, we're at the reception, we're having a great time, and I don't think Bridget realizes that Marla has her teeth in my neck, and I'm enjoying being with Bridget. I haven't seen her in a while. And Marla says, I want to show you something behind the house. And I'm like, nah, I don't really want to go behind the house. Okay, let's go behind the house, Marla. So we go behind the house, and it's kind of dark. Everybody else is at the tent. And she says, there's a steep hill. And she says, let's race up the hill. I'm like, nah, I don't really want to race up the hill, Marla. Okay, all right, let's race up the hill. So we race up the hill, and I'm actually winning this race. And I run like olive oil. I'm not athletic. I'm like completely excited that, I don't mean the oil, I mean the cartoon character. And we're running up the hill. I'm feeling great, we're running, she's behind me. I'm like, I can't believe she's a hockey jock. I can't believe I'm beating her. And then suddenly, I'm running, but my feet are not on the ground. And I'm thinking, okay, I've gone off the cliff. Marla has finally killed me. And then whoosh, I'm underwater. And it's freezing cold. And I'm way too drunk for this. Way too drunk for this. And then the good thing about drunk people is that they float. So I bobbed up to the top of the surface, and sure enough, I was just in Bridget's swimming pool, which Marla had set up. She thought it was very funny. She was laughing, and I was soaked. My TJ Maxx dress was soaked. So we go in the house, and I put my dress in the dryer, and even though my dress is pretty much made of toilet paper, it took 45 minutes for it to dry, so I'm stuck in my bra and underwear with long, wet hair. Marla leaves me there, of course. These are the terms of our arrangement. And I'm kind of sprawled out on the bed, and there's gifts all around me. So I'm in the room where all the gifts are, and they're nice gifts. Beautiful boxes and white ribbons and a lot of Tiffany. And I've got like one leg on the floor, because when you're spinning, they say if you put a leg on the floor, it makes things better. One eye open. And in walks Bridget's mother with 6 women. Equestrians, all of them. And they are there to look at the wedding gifts. And this creature passed out on the bed. It was a collective gasp of horror. And I have to admit, I had a little attitude about it. Kind of like, what's the big deal? Never seen a naked girl before? Jeez. I played it off, but I have to say the next day, I didn't feel so casual about it. I was full of shame. And I felt horrible. And my friendship with Bridget kind of faded, and I didn't see her family again. And the lifestyle was not sustainable. And mostly because of the shame. I had so much shame after I did stuff like that. So I think it was like a couple of tries and a couple of failures. And not too long after that, I got sober. I stopped drinking. I stopped taking drugs. And as the fog lifted, I realized that I had a 5-foot, 2-inch blonde heiress attached to my neck. I couldn't get sober that way. So to save you all the details, and I just want to say, she was thoroughly fucked up, but so was I. We were in it together, for sure. And I did manage to disentangle myself. And I won't lie and say that I haven't had a few nibbles from other vampires over the years. That was a long time ago, and I am attracted to vampires, as it turns out. But mostly, I'm vampire-free. It feels good. Thank you.
All right, keep it going for Elizabeth Trundle. Woo! I love a good vampire heiress story. It was macro vagina. And there was something. Putting. What I also liked is the. I liked a lot about it, but the putting up, having to put up with a friend of a friend. That I guess she thinks it's only straight girls that have to put up with that, but gay guys have to put up with the trick of a friend, which is not the same thing as saying the boyfriend of the friend, but it's the trick from the last night that's still there, and they want to join you for brunch. But now that I'm sober, I don't do that. Thank you. Yes, I'm having progressive outfit changes. If you notice, each one builds, there's a piece from the other one, and this is a staple. The shoes, the underwear, and the socks, or the sockettes. So I've always loved old movies and fur. And to me, there's nothing more glamorous than my favorite movie star, Joan Crawford, sipping a martini while wearing a big, boxy mink. So when I was growing up in Beaumont, I was always the coat check at my parents' parties. And even though the Christmas parties, and even though the thermometer rarely dipped below 45 degrees, all of the wives showed up in their air-conditioned Cadillacs and Lincolns, wearing the latest black minks, silver foxes, white rabbits, and they parade into our air-conditioned house. But the fur that fascinated me the most was old Lady Dorothy's, then unfashionable, black Persian lamb. It was unlike any of the other fur, with its strange squiggly pattern of raised satiny black fur. It looked like a coxcomb flower, or the surface of a brain. And I remember thinking, I wish boys could wear fur. And then I moved to New York City. And I was on a vintage fur quest. I'd never buy new. And it took me several years, but one day I was at a flea market, and there it was, hanging on a chain link fence, all by itself, as if it had been waiting just for me. It was a black Persian lamb. And it was a man's Persian lamb. I paid $150 for it. Another $150 to have it altered to fit perfectly. I was so excited about that coat. I was like a high school girl with a new prom dress. I could not wait to wear it. And I wasn't going to wait for any prom. On the very first day that coat was ready, I wore it to work, to the job to the office of a job I hated, I'll have you know. But fur changes a person. As I was walking down the streets, I was impossibly chic, smart, and stylish, and delightfully queenie. I mean, no one on the street would have mistaken me for a football fan. And I could not wait to show off that fur to my best friend, Mr. Parker, at our daily drink date that I had because I needed to drink and I needed to help me forget that job I loathed. So I couldn't wait to get there. At 5:30, I walk in, and Mr. Parker is already 2 fingers into his martini. I walk in and do a quick model turn. I glance at him over my vintage sunglasses. Whoa, darling! That coat is fantastic! You look like Joan Crawford in her Block Llama What Becomes a Legend Most ads. You think so? Thanks. After that first martini melted into my body, I started to forget that shitty day at work. But after 3 more martinis, I barely remembered I had a job. Now, Mr. Parker eventually left and went home to his boyfriend, which I should have done. But I was feeling too free, too sexy to waste that 4 martini high. Besides, I wanted to show off my new coat at the Sodomite Resorts in Chelsea. It was a hit at Barracuda. Fabulous coat. Is that brain fur? My grandmother had a Persian lamb. I adored it. I was feeling really good, and I decided to up the ante with a wintry mix. Not what the weatherman calls a mix of rain and snow, but what I called a mix of booze and coke. And I headed over to the Rawhide. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Now, the Rawhide was ostensibly a leather bar, but all were welcome. However, I can assure you, I was the only one wearing a Persian lamb coat. The place was packed because it was stripper night. So I parked my Persian lamb on the bar stool, and as other coats piled up on top of it, and then I bumper cart around the bar doing the coke and talking to people and going to the bathroom and talking to people and going to the bathroom and talking to people. And when it was done, the coke, I went back to the bar to get another drink, and I went to the bar stool and I lifted up a pea coat to get my coat underneath, and yeah. It wasn't there. I'm like, oh no, maybe it's the wrong stool. I looked left and right, the place had started to thin, the other stools were empty. Hey! I yelled at the bartender. I had a Persian lamb coat right there! A Persian lamb what? Oh, we didn't see anything like that in here. I ran frantically around the bar, hoping to find it. Nothing. I ran out to the arctically cold street outside, hoping that maybe I would catch the thief casually sauntering away in it. Nada. I went back inside, and I did the only thing I knew how to do in those days in a moment of crisis. I ordered another drink. And in the time it took me to down 3 gin and tonics, I went through the entire 5 stages of grief and loss. Denial. It can't be gone. It's got to be here somewhere. I know I'll find it. Anger. Who in the rawhide would want a Persian lamb coat? And where's he going to wear it? Bargaining. Please, if you just bring it back to me, I promise I'll never let it out of my sight again. Depression. I never even got to wear it to a party, much less a prom. I might as well have wrapped it in a red bow and just handed it on the first stranger I saw on the street. Acceptance. It's gone. It was never meant to be. Maybe you never deserved it. And as I exited that dark cave of a bar onto the frigid cold street, an arctic gust of wind assaulted my coatless body. God damn, it's cold! Taxi! I lost a lot more things after that coat. A pair of Gucci sunglasses, my great-grandfather's gold signet ring, that job I hated so much, almost my life. But I never quite got over the Persian lamb coat. Until I was at an estate auction, and I bid on and won a 6.5-foot long, chestnut brown, ranch mink stole scarf, finished with fur fingers. That scarf trumps the Persian lamb coat. Why? Because the previous owner had once been, and I shit you not, none other than Miss Joan Crawford. All right, next up is Colin Willam. I met Colin, he also goes by Sid Story. Some of you might know him that way, but we're going to go with Colin tonight. And very funny guy. He's had me at his Friday night story show. He let me tell the Peggy Lee story there. It all worked out. But a little bit more about Colin. He just produced Jinx, the life and deaths of Robert Durst. And he is the host, impressive, right? He is the host of the very fun storytelling game show, surprise stories. And the next show is coming up Saturday, June 18th at 8 p.m. at the Unicorn. So please join me in welcoming to the stage, Colin!
Did everybody applaud Jesse's coat and wardrobe choice this evening? Jamie, Jesus Christ. I'm a little nervous. Just by show of hands, I'm doing a little research poll. Who here celebrates a birthday? So it's July 12th, 2008, the eve of my 31st birthday, and I'm at a party. It's not a birthday party. It's a Jesse Helms is dead party. Jesse Helms, for those of you who don't know, is a former senator from North Carolina. I have a lot of friends. They went to UNC Chapel Hill, and they decided the best way to celebrate Jesse Helms' life was to regale his death. And they go all out. They get a piñata, they fashion a mask to look like Jesse Helms, they put it on the front, we take turns beating the shit out of it with a baseball bat. Bottles of booze fall out, condoms. Jesse Helms was not a nice guy, he was homophobic, he was racist, misogynist. Now I'm celebrating for a completely different reason. Not only is it almost my birthday, but it's been a pretty shitty year. I've recently broken up with my long-term boyfriend after 364 days, which record for me. He cheated. I woke up one morning, I went to use the restroom, and it burned when I peed. It was curable, but sadly, our love for each other was not. So I'm at this party, I'm really tying one on. I'm mixing beer with the brown stuff, which is always a good idea. And smoking joints, doing lines of coke. I don't know about you, but there's only so many lines of coke I can snort before I get bored. And I decide it's time for me to go home. I live about a mile from the party, and I've done this many times. I mean, it's not very far. And so I go to get my bike. I have this really awesome yellow bike I call Yellow Bike. And my friends, they see this. And my best friend, Brian, it's his apartment, it's his party. He tries to stop me. And he's asking me, like, what am I doing? And I tell him it's fine, I can do this. And he does everything short of starting a GoFundMe campaign to get me to stay there. It's like he passes the hat around, people put cash in it for me to get a cab. And at one point they hide my bike. Now, I know I might not look it, but I'm very good at playing hide and go seek. And I wait for everybody to go outside in the back to have a cigarette, and I find Yellow Bike. It's hidden in a closet, and I make my escape. But not before Brian, he catches me, comes back inside, and he's like, where are you going? And I say, Brian, I'm going to be fine. And Brian's a really good friend, so he lets me go. And I put on my bike helmet because I'm not an idiot. And I put in my earbuds because I'm an idiot. And I take my bike outside, I hop on Yellow Bike, and I'm 2 blocks away, and I'm approaching this intersection. And I see headlights coming from the left, and they're very fast. And for whatever reason, I decide I am going to beat that car to the intersection. So I speed up on Yellow Bike, and I get to the corner. And Yellow Bike's a mountain bike, and mountain bike tires are different. They've got ridges. And if the tire doesn't catch at the right angle, it's going to flip. And so I get there, and I ride up onto the sidewalk because there's no bike lane. And I know it's wrong. I know I'm not supposed to do that. It's laid out. And the tire, it doesn't catch, and it flips to the side. And I fly over the handlebars, and I hit the cement pavement, and my head just goes down with a thud. And I'm there, I'm disoriented, I don't know what's going on, and the car, I watch as it like slows to a crawl. And I get up on my knees and the car speeds away. And I look at my shirt and it's just covered in blood. And I look around and I see the remains of Yellow Bike and I'm just so frustrated. It's like there's one of the cup holders is over there and the headlight is over there and the spokes, some of them are bent. But miraculously, Yellow Bike is still rideable. And what do we do when we fall off things? We get back on. So I pick up Yellow Bike and I hop on that, I hop on her, and I ride the rest of the mile to my apartment. And I pass a couple of NYPD cops and I make eye contact with them and they do nothing. And I get to my apartment and I walk up the 4 flights of stairs and it's empty. And I say hi to the cats and I just go straight to bed. I fall asleep, clothes and everything. And the next morning I wake up and the first thought I have is, it's your birthday. You're 31. And the second thought I have is, ow. My entire face is numb. And I haven't seen it yet. And I get out of bed and I go over to the bathroom and I turn on the light and I look in the really shitty medicine cabinet mirror and I see I've just got like black bruises under my eyes and I look at my teeth. Miraculously, none of my teeth have been broken and you know how you like scrape your knee? I've done that to my chin. And there's just like a gash right here and there's a piece of skin. It's about the size of a silver dollar that's just like hanging off. And I can't walk around like that. I'm just not going to do it. And that's like my option. Or I can go to the emergency room. And I've done that before. I'm going to spend 8 hours there. I'm going to wait to see some doctor. They're going to do some stuff that I could basically do myself. So I open the medicine cabinet and I pull out a small pair of scissors. And I hold it out while I just it's painless. It's really kind of painless. And I got a little, you can tell. And I figure if anybody asks, I'll just say I got into a fight, which is kind of true. It was just with the pavement. But I'm standing there looking in the mirror and I'm thinking about bigger things. And I'm like, what are you doing with your life? You know, you're 31. It's time for you to grow up. And I think about my dad, who always struggled with alcoholism. He was a recovering alcoholic for a long period of my life. He was a complete asshole. And I didn't want to become that. And I think about my mom, my dear, sweet mother, who every Sunday I call up because that's what you're supposed to do. And a lot of those times I was drunk and I was just passing for sober and thinking about how sad she would be if she actually knew the truth. I decided it's time for a change. So I quit drinking. For 3 years, I quit drinking. Hey, it's something. It's a start. It's special occasions sometimes. I don't do near as much coke as I would like. So if you're holding, come find me after the show. And that, as they say, was the end of my youth. Thank you.
Keep going for Colin. Woo! You know, these days I don't do as much coke as I would like either. Because I don't do it at all. And if I did it, well. Thank you, Colin. That was fantastic. And that silver dollar flap of skin is something that is burned into my memory. Wow. Our next And final storyteller is Jeff Simmermon. And he is one of my favorite storytellers. He's also a comedian. He's very funny. He's also a fellow Southerner. And I love his line, which I'm going to steal, but I can't steal it right now because I'm giving him credit, about he's like a good Southern transplant. He brings the grits up here and leaves the racism down there. Whoa! What? I think that's great. I think that's brilliant. Anyway, he's got a lot going on. He's a stand-up comedian, as I said before. He hosts a monthly show at Upright Citizens Brigade East called And I Am Not Lying. He's a Moth Grand Slam champ. He's also won many Moth Story Slams. He's been on This American Life. He is teaching a storytelling stand-up workshop that begins this coming Sunday, June 5th. There are still slots available. You can visit his website, jeffsimmermon.com, for details. And let's give it up for Jeff.
Hey, thanks. You guys are great. What's up with going whoa about leaving racism behind somewhere? Like, would you guys prefer that we'd all had it with us in the room right now? No, all I mean is that, like, I don't know. I followed the Confederate controversy, the Confederate flag bullshit that was going on last year a little bit with great. I got myself banned from so many Virginia newspaper website comment sections because I was just celebrating about it. I just think that saying that the Confederate flag is about heritage, not hate, is like saying I'm just drinking this urine for the salt. But there's other ways to get what you're after that are less toxic. A lot of Coke talk tonight, which is weird for a sobriety show. Motherfuckers in New York love to talk about cocaine, love to do cocaine. Also like to tell you about where their food comes from and how it was treated, which I think is an interesting irony, right? Tonight's pork chops were raised on the roof by the chef, and they heard a Decemberist lullaby before they were slaughtered. But the cocaine we're all doing later definitely crossed a desert in a toddler's asshole. We are New Yorkers, but incapable of seeing this irony for some reason. Fucking stop doing it, dummy. Like, if you just had to look at a severed head every time you did a line, you would just change the way you do it. The one guy, the rest of you aren't laughing because you know I'm right. Anyway, okay, so look. I used to live in Perth, Western Australia, which it sounds fancy, and because this is America, I'm going to tell you this very clearly. It's on the west coast of Australia, surrounded by 3,000 miles of desert, and then there's just the Indian Ocean on the other side. So it's really remote and really, really beautiful, but weirdly, there's a whole lot of money for like a desert country town. I met so many women there that couldn't fuck somebody unless they owned a boat. But my girlfriend and I were sitting on the balcony. It's New Year's Eve. We're watching the sunset over the ocean, and it is gorgeous. It is whatever. Just picture a sun setting over the ocean. You got the story, right? The sun, it's orange, and it's all right. And then this stuff is blue. And literally a pod of dolphins had come into the cove where we were living, and were mating and raising their young there. So the sun's setting, we're having wine, it's New Year's Eve, dolphins are fucking in the ocean, and they're like coming out and high-fiving each other on the way back in. If somebody had airbrushed it on the side of a van, you would have been like, too much. Pull it back a little, come on, don't go crazy. And we're working on our third bottle of wine, which actually means she's had 2 bottles of wine, and I'm a few glasses into my first one, and she's reaching across the table. Wait before you enjoy this, because to like commit to it before you say, oh, that's me, because we are having the fight that you have when your girlfriend has 2 bottles of wine into an evening. and we like, this is the first time I've ever lived with anybody. And you know those fights, the first person you live with that start with like, could you just wring the sponge out after you do the dishes? Because it gets a bit mildewy. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, okay, I didn't realize that bothered you so much. I will try to focus on your needs in the future. But from my perspective, just from my point of view, if I may, I find it very difficult to please you sexually. So, and it's just boom, it's just going nuts. Like, how do we get here in half an hour? Right? And then she just starts saying, would you just relax? Just have a bit more wine. It's New Year's Eve. Could you just be fun? Which is the best way to make me not be fun. I hate that. Be fun. Fuck you, be fun. Like, as though, like last month, we were on a boat in the Indian Ocean doing lines and rocking out to In Excess wearing only white linen vests. So I know how to be fun, okay? It's been done. This is before I developed that moral stance I took earlier. But, you know, time is a rich tapestry. But I just am like, stop it, you know, because be fun doesn't mean be fun. Be fun means get exactly as wasted as I am and do not question my decisions the entire time, right? Because then I won't have to confront the fact that I'm a high-functioning alcoholic. And so I translated that phrase for her. And it didn't go as well as I thought it would, you know. And then she's like, then she pulls out. So this is a good one. Well, it doesn't matter to me. I don't fucking care, right? I'm always going to be better than you because I'm always going to be worth more money. Yeah. That's the right time to make that noise, not the Southern thing. But yes, you're right. So we're just sitting there. We're just going. Like, you know, you hate somebody with your breath? We're just doing that. And then we just heard this, like, clink, and it's the mail slot. She gets up and goes, hang on, and crosses the apartment, goes over to the mail slot, picks up an envelope, rips it open, and goes, it's from my brother. He says here, he brought us a gift for New Year's. Didn't want to interrupt, said we sounded a bit busy, but this is for us. Happy New Year. And there's 2 tablets of ecstasy in here. And I've never done that before, but she was like, you know what? I am just so sick of fighting. I want to have a nice evening, okay? So what I reckon, let's just eat these, and then if you feel like fighting tomorrow, I'll meet you back out here, all right? And I was like, I will take any escape hatch I can get right now down the hatch. So, we take the pills, and then we head down the local pub where my friend Luke is bartending, and it's this huge, they call it a hotel, and it's not a Motel 6. A hotel in Australia is 3 different tremendous bars, and then like 12 rooms to sleep it off in on the top floor. And it's the Ocean Beach Hotel. It's looking out over the aforementioned ocean and the dolphins, and then it is just rocking. And every person in there is moving like a sea anemone in high tide, just like back and forth like this, because a band is playing so hard right now, and it's seriously, the lead singer is an overweight woman, and the name of the band is Fat Benatar. They're doing Pat Benatar covers. She's just sitting there rocking it out. I'm like, yeah, love is a battlefield, honey. That's right. And that's when I realized this stuff might be working on me. So, we approached the bar. My friend Luke is there, and he's not like a drag person in general, but he thought he'd do it special that night. And he's lying on the floor behind the bar in drag, pouring beers like this, like with the pistol. And I said, Luke, how do I tip you for this? He goes, come over here and stick it between my tits, mate. Like, the whole pub is just nuts. And I have really got to use it, because we drank all that wine, and then I had a bunch of water, and then I had an ecstasy tablet, and I turned to my girlfriend and I said, listen, I've got to use the men's room. And the line for the men's room at this bar is like the line for the men's room at the Super Bowl if Kiss was opening. It's just dudes in circles. The hedge maze in The Shining, but made out of dudes. That's what it looks like. And so I was like, really kind of doing the dance. And she goes, oh, well, I have always wanted to tell you this. should come as no surprise, really, but I've always secretly wanted to have a cock. So I reckon the next best thing is when you get up there, I want to hold it while you go. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's a super idea. I love you. I love that idea. I will do anything I can do to make that happen. And she looks at me like, really? And I said, yeah, really, I'm serious. I just want you to be happy right now. And she goes, oh, you've made me so happy. Now follow me. Grabs my shoulder and then just starts shoving dudes out of the way. And he's like, one side, out the way, let's go. It's a fucking emergency. And she's like charging her way up to the front of this huge line. We finally get into the bathroom and all the way up to the front. And in Australia, they do more of like the steel trough, where like there's just a wall of sheet metal here and a trough. And then like as many dudes as will fit shoulder to shoulder are just standing there making it happen. And she elbows them out of the way and then pushes me in and goes, go on out, you get. So, you know, I do. And then she grabs it, and it's like her grabbing it is like opening the Ark of the fucking Covenant. It is crazy how good this feels. It's flying out. The relief is unbelievable. It's like making the Om, the infinity sign, and going back in. And just like, I can't even stand it. And I'm just like, oh God, I'm so happy right now. And she's like, she's standing there like, this is superior pissing technology is what this is. No bloody wonder you're decorating every fucking rock and tree when we're camping out there. Oh. I get it. I really feel as though I understand you. And I was like, oh, it feels so good to be understood, you know, and I'm just like, just going. And then, okay, I forgot to mention this part because I riffed a bunch of shit and I forgot this part. But Western Australia, big biker gang presence, right? This is protective camouflage. I don't do that shit, okay? This is just purchases I made on the internet. But these dudes are for real. And, they're in the bathroom. They've got to go. And some guy, some like bikey lieutenant halfway back just goes like, oh, that's fucked. Can't have a fucking chick in the men's room. I've been waiting here half a fucking hour, right? You just charge your way up here. It's not on. Get the fuck out. And I was just like, oh no, what's going to happen now? But I'm still, you know, the ghosts are still flying out of the Ark, you know, and she is holding it and turns around and goes, get fucked, you cunt. You're just mad because you've got a small cock. Boyfriend's doing fine. This guy's fucking set up, points at another man's pissing dick with my pissing dick. He's fucking set up. You don't hear them whinging now, do you? And then it's just silent. And I was like, is this going to be a really weird remake of like The Warriors where I have to fight my way out of this bathroom, like dick out? She was so good at starting stuff in bars for me to finish. I can't even count the number of times I've seen her slap the whiskey out of a man's mouth and then step aside. Like. And I was just like, because I'm not even done, you know? Like, that's maybe, like, you know, maybe that's a protective advantage as like a skunk or something, you know? But I was like... And then, like, the big guy, like, the head of the gang was just like, bah! And then the whole bathroom starts cracking up. I got to finish. I got to live. We drank for free. And it was just amazing. For the rest of the evening, we were on the Coffin Cheaters tab that night, and that was pretty awesome. And then we're going home. We're walking home, and I just, like, we went home over the dunes, and we just were watching the moon come up over the ocean. Again, another overdone van, you know, out there, and I just held her. I was like, listen, I know we've got problems right now, you know. I know we don't see eye to eye on stuff, and I said some things. I'm just sorry, but just the way you're just so wild and fun and crazy like that, I need that to loosen me up, you know. And like, yeah, it's hard to connect with you when you're like that, and a lot of times it does feel like we're having different kinds of fun next to each other. We can't really relate, but I just need this. I need stories like this in my life. I need it so bad. She goes, oh God, me too. Gives me this hug, and we kiss and make up. And, you know, I think that substance abuse can play an important role in healing a relationship. 'Cause we went home, we really made up, and for the next couple months, something tough would happen, and we look each other in the eye and just remember that night and, have a laugh. And it just kept, dealing with our lives and living and laughing and getting it together, and nothing really bad happened again after that until the bus ride home from the abortion clinic. So, thanks.
All right. Keep it going for Jeff Simmermon. Wow. Did you notice how the pattern in his shirt was continued on his arm in the tattoo? Now that's coordination. Wow, I love that story. I used to love ecstasy. And I touched a lot of penises while I was on X, but I didn't have quite that story. That's award winning. I like that, and I like the whole thing that the girlfriend was good at starting things in bars that he had to finish. I wanted to say a few things before we close, which is I wanted to give a big round of applause to the Duplex, and particularly Thomas Honeck, who coordinated this whole event with me and allowed us to perform tonight here. And it is the historic New York. What is it? New York's most historic cabaret, and that's cool. So, round of applause. Don't forget your bartenders. Be nice to them. Give them a good tip. Don't give them any lip, no matter what you drink. And so a round of applause for your bartenders. And since it's cabaret, I was gonna do take a bow and then do that false exit. Like they do, and then you could, applaud really long, and then I'd come back and pretend like I was going to do an encore. But I actually have one more story for you tonight, and we were keeping with the theme. We were building a little bit here, so whoever said you can't get sober for someone else never met Mama Jean. So when I came to in a Manhattan emergency room after taking an overdose of sleeping pills, my alcoholic bottom, to the news that Mama Jean was on a plane from Texas on her way to rescue me, I panicked. She was the last person I wanted to see on that dark morning, but the person I needed to see the most. Stop her, I pleaded. It was too late. She was already in flight. There was no stopping Mama Jean. Now, at that point, my drinking had progressed from calling Peggy Lee and losing Persian lamb coats to losing jobs and almost losing my life. So it didn't work. The sex and the glamour and of drinking took me to some pretty bad places. Well, it took me to that Manhattan emergency room. And when I came home to my apartment after detoxing for a week, Mama Jean was there waiting for me. And I was wrong when I panicked on that emergency room gurney. I thought her reaction was going to be, God damn it! I knew this would happen. But I was totally wrong. She stood there looking more scared than I felt. And then she hugged me for dear life, her Jamie doll back in her arms. Oh, I'm just so happy to see you alive. And then a psychiatrist friend came over, and she started to regain her dexterity. And the psychiatrist tried to very clinically and gingerly explain the next steps in treating my alcoholism. Cut to the chase, doctor. Are we going to have to lock him up? The answer was yes. Out came her checkbook. And then she pointed a finger in my face. Your drinking days are over. And by the way, suicide is a mortal sin. It's a good thing you didn't succeed. Otherwise, you couldn't spend eternity in heaven with me. So off I went on a sober journey funded by Mama Jean. 3 short years later, Mama Jean started to slip away. Her mind had been hijacked by Lewy body dementia. Think Alzheimer's, only weirder and worse. And when she first went haywire, hit bottom, if you will, I did what she'd done for me, and I hopped on a plane and flew down to Texas to be by her side. During that first visit, I'm not sure at the hospital, I'm not sure if she even knew who I was. At one point, she looked at me and she said, "With your pretty red hair, you almost remind me of..." And then she just trailed off. Everything she said that day lacked the one thing she'd never lacked: conviction. And then when I turned to leave her, she grabbed my arm in a vice grip. And I turned around and she was shaking a finger at me and glaring like the day she shipped me off to rehab. "You've been drinking." "No, I haven't." "Don't lie to me." "I'm not." I wasn't. But my drinking days weren't completely behind me. I'd been relapsing ever since rehab, and I had at that moment 7 months sober, and I was struggling to finally get a year sober. But how could she know that? "You better not be lying." "I'm not." "Remember, Mama, that's all behind us. You took care of that. I have you to thank." And I thought to myself, who would blame me if I drank over my mother losing her mind? And then I said, "God damn it! If you can't stay sober for yourself, do it for her." I turned and faced her. "You don't have to worry anymore." "Okay. But promise me." "Promise." "I promise." 5 months later, Mama Jean died, and I finally got a year sober. I haven't had a drink since. So she died knowing that I was sober with her help, but never knowing that she saved me one last time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Brickhouse.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You have been a marvelous audience, so give yourself an applause. And I want to bring back all of our stellar tellers. Tarik Daniels. Take a bow. Sandi Marx. Little Bobby Hankinson. Elizabeth Trundle. Colin Willam. And Jeff Simmermon. And before I let you go, you've been a marvelous audience, really. If you want, I can. We can chat outside in the bar, and we need to clear the room. But and I'll be happy to. The books are already signed, but if you want me to personalize, I'll be happy to do that. But before we all leave, I want us to do a little salute to Mama Jean, and we're all going to do on the count of 3 her "God damn it." Now it goes like this: God damn it. So, raise a glass, raise your arm, raise a finger, and on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. God damn it! Good night, everybody.